Welcome to part 2B of using database in a Python and Flask web app. In the previous session, we learned how to connect to a database, how to create table, and how to retrieve the information. In today's session, we are going to learn how to update the information in the web app and then update it in the database table. We'll also learn how to delete the information from the web app and delete it from the database. Thank you for watching. Last session, we created this web page where it's retrieving the data from the database and it's showing on the web page. Now to delete and update, we are going to make two modifications to this page. We'll add delete and update link. Let's go back to our code. First thing we would start is profile list.html where we added the entry name, residence, and let's add two more links which will be for the update profile or edit profile and delete profile. We'll call it edit profile. Now keep one thing in mind, when we are editing profile, we need to know which profile number we are using. And if we look at it, all the profiles have ID, which we did not add it over. So I would, like to add the ID over here so we get an idea of which profile we are adding. And the ID is the entry.id. And to capture ID, we would have to make minor addition, which is over here. We will also retrieve the ID, right? So ID equals 0. Then these indices will change. This will become 2. Right, we save it. Now going back, we see we get the ID, name, residence, and so here, if you guys are familiar, we will add the entry ID. Okay. And similarly, we are going to add a delete profile, which will allow us to delete. I'll add the link over here. I'll just modify this so that we move fast. Okay, so with this now we have created the links. Let's add another convenience method called add profile. So just for the completeness sake, when we land on the main page, we have all the links. So we'll add another. Let's just quickly review what was the name of the thing. It's called add profile form. So that's what we want to render. Right, so add profile form looks good to me, and we'll call it add profile. So all it's going to do is just add a link so that it's convenient next time you want to access. Let's run this code and see how the page looks like now. Okay, we go there, and then you see we got an add profile link. We also see there are now these indexes, right, or indices. These are unique IDs for every record. It's good idea. And then we have edit profile and delete profile. Now add profile, if you click, it's gonna show the add profile, which is we already worked on in the last session. This session we'll focus on edit and delete. So let's work on the edit profile. So we created the links. The next step would be to create a form which will fill the name and the residence. Right. So best way to do is we'll create the my profile form. Right. Make a copy of it. Control C, Control V. I'll call it my profile update form. And one thing we need to do in the update form is we have to change this link to update profile, and then we also need to populate these with the values. So let's add the value. We'll call it person dot name. That was the one. Similarly for the residence, we'll call it person dot state of residence. So what it's going to do is we are going to retrieve the value for a particular ID, and we are going to pass it to a form, and then which will basically populate it with the value we got from the database. Another thing we want to add is ID, because everything is tied to ID. It's important we pass ID, and we'll just keep it hidden, so it's not gonna show up. If you want to show up, that's show it, that's okay too. We don't have a problem. Let's just I'll keep it not hidden, so it helps us understand what we are doing, right? So we'll call it just text. So similar to this, we will call this ID. This is person.id. Let's do a line break. Okay, so our update form is done, right? Now let's go back to our Python code where we are going to add two mappings. So let's add a comment, update profile. We called it edit profile, right? What was in the profile list? We called it edit profile. Okay, so we'll stick to the same edit profile, def edit. Now in edit profile, because we are editing, we need to know what record are we editing, right? So as we are getting the ID being passed as a request parameter, so request dot get, we need to have some value so that we can run a database query and get those results. And we'll use the same thing. We have the select query. Let's just use the same queries. We'll make some changes to it, right? So we copy this statement. I'm just gonna copy this, and then we'll make changes. Copy paste is always not a good idea, but in this case, I'll make some little changes, because in this case we are expecting only single line. Okay, so we got the cursor, and let's get the one row fetch all. Okay. So after fetch all, let's close the cursor. Now let's get the, we only need one record, so this is going to be an, let's say, array. So we are going to fetch rv.0 and return template, or return render template. And you guys know what is it? It's, we are going to return my profile update form, right? And we are going to pass our person guy, right? So now the update is edit is done. Okay. Now let's see how it looks like. So we go back, let's restart it. It's always good idea to restart. Oh, we ran into a problem somewhere. Let's say it says app.route. Okay, this seems to be the problem. Small things, but they matter. So let's reload it, and we are going to now click on edit profile. We have error. But if you look at the URL, it says edit profile question mark ID equals 1. So these parameters are good. It means we have a problem in the code somewhere. And let's take a look. Here, edit profile, we connect. Everything looks good. Okay, so let's just print it what's in the RV0. We can also call it person. So as we see, it did print ND and AZ, which is correct. So let's go to the update form. We have person.id, person.state of residence. So everything looks good, but because it's failing, I'm guessing something in this having a problem. One option to debug is do a debug equals true, and then we just restart it and see what's going on. Okay. So okay, over here it's saying render template takes one positional argument, but two were given. So the problem is our arguments, right? So okay, so this is where it is. We need to have a name as well as value being passed. Okay, so it says it reloaded by itself in debug mode. That's a good thing about debug mode. We don't need to restart it. And there you go. So we see in the edit profile, it showed the form, but as we see, it's not getting populated. So let's see what's going on. Person equals RV0. So person, it's printing correctly, right? Okay. So one thing is we have to convert it. Maybe it's a tuple. Right? So it's gonna be person 0, person 1. Save it. Restart. Just to be sure. Yes. So as we see now, the form is already populated with it. Now one thing is we did create the form, but we we haven't added change where we want to, when we submit it, we should be able to update the database. So this is the update profile piece. So let's go back to the update profile. We are going to create another function app route. Same, we get the ID. And because we are also trying to get the, we may have updated, right? We may have updated the name and residence, so we'll try to get those two. Let's just copy these three. Right. Okay, the SQL. So this is update SQL. So SQL is going to look like SQL equals update table person, where name for this, and first parameter is name. So we'll say my name. Second is state of residence, and third is the ID. And if we are doing inserts or update, it's always a good idea to do a commit. Now after updating, there are two options. We can redirect the user to the profile page where it's gonna show updated. A commonly used trend is you just send them back to the list of profiles where you can get the list, display. So let's return. So we'll use the index function, which is basically, mapped to the root where it lists all the users. So if we look up there on the top, this is our index where, if you go to the home page, it's going to show you all the entries. So as we are looking at the edit profile, we saw it. Let's send him to Georgia. And there we go. We see the update to Georgia. Okay. So now our update profile is done. Let's see if we want to, next we would be deleting the profile. So it's very similar to what we have done right now. I'll copy the same method and we'll just make changes to it. Right, so we call it delete profile. So in deleting, we don't need the names. It's just easier to get the ID, right? And we'll say delete from people where ID equals whatever. And in this case, we only need the ID. And that should get our delete functioning. Okay, so let's go back again to our main page. I'll say okay, delete profile. We want to delete Lucy's profile, and there you go. We saw it got deleted. We'll add again. Lucy lives in California. We'll submit it. My name is Lucy. It got added. Again, add profile is sending it to profile detail page, which is okay. You can add function to show the list of. So let's just go to the home page. So you see Lucy is already there, right? So if you want to send Lucy to, let's say, Arizona, we'll update the ID of Lucy. Now, one thing we saw is we deleted the other instance of Lucy, so the ID is different, which is how database operate. Once it's deleted, the IDs will change. So this concludes how to delete. Watching the video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach us out through any of those channels. And stay tuned for the next segment where we are going to learn how to use templates in our web app. Thank you.